It seems that having too much milk is a champagne problem, but it is a problem nonetheless. Before I explain how to manage too much milk, I first want to define what it means to have too much milk. But before I can define too much milk, I want to define what is average or normal. Defining normal is important for two reasons. One, to determine if you truly do have an oversupply of milk. Also note that determining whether or not you have an oversupply can be done until 2 weeks, at the earliest, ideally closer to 4 weeks. In the early weeks, your body is still trying to figure out how much milk you want it to make, so it can easily and quickly increase or decrease. Okay, so what is normal? If you have an average milk supply and you are exclusively breastfeeding, i.e., not supplementing with formula or feeding solids, your baby probably gains about 5 to 7 ounces a week. Most often, your baby accepts both breasts at each feeding, though at times she may want just one. That is, most often first thing in the morning when your breasts feel fuller. If you pump within 15 to 20 minutes of completing a breastfeeding session, you will probably get 1 to 2 ounces combined. If you pump in place of breastfeeding about 2 or 3 hours from your last breastfeeding or pumping session, you will collect about 3 to 5 ounces from both breasts combined. Occasionally, if the baby gives you a blessed chunk of sleep or you accidentally go 4 to 6 hours without pumping, you may get 6 ounces combined. If you have an average supply, once your baby is about 5 to 6 weeks old, you most likely don't feel like you have to pump or feed the baby at the 2 to 3 hour mark. Rather, your boobs start to get a little angry around the 4 to 6 hour mark. If you have met with a quality egg at 2 weeks postpartum or later and she has done a transfer weigh, your baby probably will have eaten about 45 to 60 milliliters from the first breast and in addition 15 to 30 milliliters from the second breast. Moms with an average milk supply usually don't complain about their baby chugging, choking, or coughing at the breast. Their babies may show small signs of spit up, but not at every feeding, and not copious amounts. It is notable though that babies can spit up for a lot of reasons. Finally, moms with an average milk supply enjoy a pretty textbook nursing pattern. Their babies ask to eat every 2 to 3 hours around the clock. The baby often nurses for the classic 15 to 20 minutes on the first breast and another 10 to 15 minutes on the second breast. Moms with an average supply usually report having a baby that hangs out on the breast and uses it as a pacifier. This is because once that baby is done eating, there is nothing but a delicious tasting nipple left to just suck and nap on. So then, what is oversupply? If you have an oversupply of milk, your baby probably gains about 8 to 16 ounces a week. Most often your baby accepts one breast at each feeding. It is rare that your baby accepts both breasts, though if she does, it is almost always in the evening, when your breasts feel softer. If you pump within 15 to 20 minutes of completing a breastfeeding session, you will probably get 3 to 5 ounces from the breast the baby did not drink from, and 1 to 3 ounces from the breast the baby did drink from. If you pump in place of breastfeeding about 2 or 3 hours from your last breastfeeding or pumping session, well, here is where your true oversupply will show us what it can do. If average is 3 to 5 ounces combined and you are getting that from each breast, you have an oversupply. If you are getting more than 5 ounces from each breast and you don't have twins, then you have, let's call it, an aggressive oversupply. Your body thinks it is feeding 3 or 4 babies, not one. Occasionally, if the baby gives you a blessed chunk of sleep or you accidentally go 4 to 6 hours without pumping. Oh wait, this probably rarely ever happens to you. Because your boobs will wake you up before the baby wakes you up. If you have an oversupply, you are probably constantly aware of the fullness of your breasts and your need to nurse. You can barely make it to the 3-hour mark without coaxing the baby to nurse, perhaps even before she is ready, because you need the relief. If you have an oversupply, you may be reliant on your pump at least once, if not multiple times, per day if the baby doesn't do a good enough job softening you. You may be a little too familiar with plugged ducts and mastitis. If you have met with a quality egg pluck at 2 weeks postpartum or later, and she has done a transfer weigh, your baby probably ate about 90 to 120 milliliters 3 to 4 ounces from the first breast. If that baby dared attempt the second breast, he may have taken in accidentally or on purpose an additional 30 to 60 milliliters 1 to 2 ounces before tapping out. Moms with an oversupply report that their babies are quick nursers, sometimes finishing in as short of a period as 5 to 10 minutes. They report that their babies seem like they are drinking really fast the whole time. Their babies cough and sputter if they let down their guard for even a moment and disorganize their suck, swallow, breathe pattern. I like to joke that there are bones in mom's milk when this happens. Moms with an oversupply worry they are drowning their baby. There is often milk everywhere, all the time. Their babies may or may not spit up. Some babies can handle big feedings, like champs. Others regularly overeat themselves and promptly burp up the extra. And yes, I 100% believe that breastfed babies can overeat themselves if they are drinking copious amount of milk being poured into their mouths faster than they can think. So do you think you might have an oversupply? Read on. The next question we must ask is, so what? Is oversupply causing a problem in your life and / or your baby's life, and does it require attention? If you have a happy, fat baby who may or may not happily puke on himself, your baby doesn't have a problem with your milk supply. If you have boobs that feel full most of the time, but have adjusted to taking turns at every other feeding without needing to be pumped, your boobs don't have a problem with your oversupply. But if you have a fussy, spitty, pukey baby, if you have a baby with lime green poops, if you have a baby that seems gassy because she swallows so much air while nursing, if you are a slave to your pump and your baby, if you have chronic and repeated bouts of mastitis, if you have hundreds of ounces in your freezer and there is no room left for ice cream, you may have an oversupply problem.